When you know that you are queer, but your favorite drink is beer, that's gayish. You can bottom without stopping, but you can't stand going shopping, that's gayish. Oh, gayish, you're probably gayish. Well, life's just too short for narrow stereotypes, so it's gayish. We're also gayish. It's Gayish with Mike and Kyle.
Hello, everyone in the podcast universe. This is Gayish,
the podcast that wants an extra helping of all the sides.
Yeah, mashed potatoes and the gravy and stuffing.
Gravy and great stuffing. Well, no anal stuffing, but gravy.
Oh, I mean,
but mash my potatoes.
Yeah.
If you don't know what the word side means, you're this was all very funny, just so you know. Just laugh and you're fine.
I'm Mike Johnson.
I'm Kyle Getz.
We're here to bridge the gap between sexuality and actuality. And today
we're going to talk about sides.
We're going to talk about sides.
We're going to talk about mashed potatoes.
Yeah, we are.
Anything can sound sexy if you do like your deep voice. Yeah, we are.
It's especially easy when I'm hungover, so
yay.
Enjoy, everybody.
But first,
I do have a quick correction. It's not really a correction, but I kind of felt bad because I called Philip Seymour Hoffman a monster person, and he's not a monster. Truman Capote was 5'4", and Philip Seymour Hoffman was not a monster person, but he was like 5'9", 5'9.5".
I thought you meant like psychologically.
Oh, well,
I don't know anything about his like actual his background.
I mean, he's dead now, so does any of it matter? But
he looks like a monster person right now, probably.
Exactly.
But,
that's all. Cool. Yeah. All right. Here's the news.
Shut your mouth hole, it's time for your ear holes. News.
I don't think I'm going to put like a trigger warning at the top of the episode for this, but there's a little bit of a trigger warning here that we're going to be talking about sexual abuse by Catholic priests.
Ooh.
And
I mean, trigger warning, Catholic priest. You know what follows.
Exactly. Have you followed?
You know what comes next? It's the priest.
Have you followed this story at
No.
all this week? So there is a 48-year-old man named Janusz Szymik. I can't say that. He's Polish.
You did. Yeah, it's fine.
Well, like a lot of Polish names, there's like 14 consonants in a row.
Yeah.
And
my parents lived in Warsaw.
Okay.
And they would have street names that are like, they had to add an extension to the sign because it wasn't long enough. And there's like, you pronounce that flong. And you're like, there's 17 consonants in there.
Well, this man, Janusz, is 48 and has launched legal action against the Bielsko-Zywick Diocese, the Catholic Church in Poland. Claims that he was sexually abused by a priest in the 1980s, beginning when he was just 12 years old. The priest, identified only as Jan W. because of Polish privacy laws, was found guilty by a church court in 2017 of abusing Szymik as a child.
A church court is terrifying. That feels like in the military where they're like, we'll do our own private military court that you have no witness into and we'll decide what happens.
It sounds like the worst Netflix show ever. Church court. Like, yeah, his punishment was a 5-year suspension from his duties as a priest and was required to live in isolation during this time. But this is a civil case, and Szymik is seeking a 3 million zloty compensation, which is 552,000 pounds, which is also not helpful. So, like $1 million, I think, give or take.
This past weekend I was pretty zlotty.
Yeah. How many?
3 million.
3 million. That's impressive. Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, we laugh to hide the pain. Okay.
Right, exactly. This whole situation is very, very fucked up, and that part is obvious. But the most fucked up thing, I think, ever is the bishop of the diocese, Roman Pindle, has asked the court to hear, quote, evidence from an expert sexologist on the determination of the claimant's sexual preferences, in particular determination of the claimant's sexual orientation, to decide whether he was in a voluntary relationship with the priest. Basically,
whether that's 12-year-old was in a voluntary relationship. The
diocese is asking, well, did he like it?
Yeah. Did the 12-year-old choose to get like molested, or because he's gay and kind of liked it?
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yep. The diocese, quote, denies that the relationship was based on enslavement or incapacitation. On the contrary, it was voluntary and based on mutual benefits.
You can't. You just can't. Like that's not. That's not an option available to you when the child is a minor.
Yeah. Well, and they also deny that it started when he was 12. They say it started when he was 16.
Oh, that's convenient.
Right.
Very like. Oh no! It started right at legal age.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. It's fucking disgusting. It is fucking disgusting.
Yeah.
The whole thing is fucking disgusting. I don't know. Like, I don't understand how Catholics can be Catholics and like wrap their head around like the cognitive dissonance that must be necessary to belong to that organization. And
it is like, if there was anything that was going to bring down the Catholic Church, it has already happened. So clearly you care more about the Catholic Church is an institution. Yeah. It is like, you can keep believing your beliefs and not go to Catholic Church or not be a part of this group that's incredibly fucked up and has yet to actually like make up for all the shit they did or even try that hard. Like whether or not they deserve it, they haven't even tried that hard to like, yeah, it's insane what is okay to do because God, like, I don't know, God likes me kind of like that. Every Republican candidate for president, like, no, God said it was cool or I've God on my side. So that means you can ignore most of me.
Yep. It's fucked up, Kyle. Yeah. It's fucked up. Yeah. There's also, I mean, the added fucked upness of like, you can't rape a boy because if he has an erection, he must like it. Like there's so much, or like women too, right? Like, did she like it or was she asking for it? Like, or was her attire such that the man couldn't help himself? Like, like, there's so much fucking toxic horse shit happening.
And I mean, I think it goes to show some of these terrible stereotypes that I kind of think were past is like, well, if he's gay, that helps their case, saying he must have that, like, people think that gay people are down with sex. Apparently when they're 12, I guess, but like they just, anything sexual is okay because he was gay. That's an insane excuse for all of this.
Yeah. At any cost, right? Yeah. Apparently the bishop has offered a half-hearted apology. He said, quote, "We apologize to Janusz and to all who have been scandalized."
We is the, like, not I. Yeah.
Anyway, fuck the Catholic Church and the Polish diocese in particular.
You always say that.
Yeah. News the second.
Great.
I'm gonna go on a rant, Kyle.
Ooh.
I'm gonna go on a rant.
I'm here for it.
Anybody who follows me on Facebook saw this rant already a couple of days ago. There is a critical blood shortage in this country. Worldwide, actually. There is not enough blood to go around, and gay men cannot donate blood if they are sexually active in the United States. And
what's the time frame?
So it was forever. You couldn't, if you'd ever banged a dude, you could not give blood. That was changed in
tainted blood.
Yep. In 2015. Never mind. That's a Coneheads thing. In 2015, the FDA began allowing gay and bi men to donate blood if they had abstained from sex for a year, which isn't that far of a stretch for me.
It felt like a long time, and then the pandemic happened, and that,
and just in 2020, during the pandemic, it was shortened to 3 months. However, Richard Benjamin, former chief medical officer at the American Red Cross, told NBC News, quote, "That's still too long. If you are infected with HIV, for the first 1 to 2 weeks, you will test negative. So there's a scientific rationale for saying, well, if there's risk, there needs to be a delay. But it's not 3 months. It's more like about 10 days. There is a call from some senators, including Tammy Baldwin, who is the Democrat from Wisconsin and a lesbian, who said, quote, "We urge the Food and Drug Administration to quickly act on the best available science and update its outdated and discriminatory blood donor deferral policies for men who have sex with men, a long overdue step that would dramatically increase the eligible donor base." Also, something that doesn't get brought up, like some people might be aware that you can't donate blood if you're a dude that bangs dudes. If you are bisexual and you bang dudes, any women you bang also are deferred.
Oh, it's people that are also tainted by our tainted blood.
Right, exactly.
Like
By the commutative property of taint.
Yeah, you touched a bi. That means yeah. Wow, I didn't realize that either.
Yeah. So there is usually blood banks like to have at a minimum 2 or 3 days worth of blood on hand, and many across the country have 1 or less. Other countries are coming around. France and Greece just this week have lifted deferral periods on blood donations by gay and by men. And authorities in Canada have recommended removing all questions about gender or sexuality from blood donor screenings. Israel took that action in October. And the Red Cross and other medical groups, such as the American Medical Association, have recommended ending the deferral period as well.
And then is the end goal that they do testing on blood to make sure it's HIV negative, or is it they ask you, have you tested negative for HIV? Like,
that's the thing. It's both. They go through a bunch of screening questions. I don't know if you've ever tried to donate blood before or not, but they sit you down and they ask you a bunch of stuff. And one of the things they just ask you is like, have you ever banged a dude? Yeah. If you say yes, then it's like, well, how long ago?
Why do you want to?
Right.
What are you doing right now? Are you busy?
Yeah. Have you ever had a hot phlebotomist?
I am a phlebotomist. No. All
right. The phlebotomist at my doctor, when I go in for my prep screening, because every 3 months I go and get my blood drawn to make sure that I don't have the STIs. And one time, sweet fucking Jesus, there was a hot guy taking my blood, and I was just like, he asked me which arm, and I was like, I don't, whatever you want.
Any arm, bro. No, I all the ones that I have gotten that I can think of recently are women. So,
well, and he's never been back. So, he walked out of my life like everyone else. So the senators that signed this letter are Tammy Baldwin, who's sort of the ringleader of this, but there is 19 Democrats and 2 independents who caucus with the Democrats. Baldwin, again, is a lesbian and one of 2 senators from the LGBTQ community. The other one is a bisexual Kirsten Sinema of Arizona, who we're not super happy with right now. Wow. But not because of this stuff.
Oh, okay.
She said she wouldn't change the filibuster this week. She's like, she's a Democrat or caucuses with the Democrats. And it was like, yeah, we're not changing the rules.
Interestingly, if you filibuster, you're not allowed to donate blood either.
Right. Filibuster all over your face. Okay. That's it. News of the last?
Yeah.
Great. News the last. This is kind of an ongoing story. We've talked about her before, but trans Jeopardy star Amy Schneider.
Yeah, I've seen her a bunch recently.
Yeah. So
not on Jeopardy. That's too smart for me.
She has now won 32 games in a row and has amassed over $1 million and has thus become the most successful woman in Jeopardy history. She's become the 5th person to win over $1 million, joining Brad Rutter, Ken Jennings, James Holzhauer, and Matt Amadio in the Jeopardy Hall of Fame. However, with fame comes increased attention, and she has been on the receiving end of transphobic and misogynistic harassment online. Not surprised. Yeah. However, she's trying to focus on the positive messages and is hoping to create positive change because of her visibility. She's on Twitter and has some just really cool posts. But she said in an interview with NPR, she read a tweet that somebody sent her that said, quote, "After 2 to 3 years of conversation, you being on Jeopardy every night has taught my dad to be accepting of trans people. Aww. You're the first person he's used correct pronouns with. An 83-year-old man saying, this isn't that hard." So she also, in an op-ed for Newsweek, wrote, quote, "I hope I have given them, trans folks, the opportunity to see a trans person succeed. Until very recently, trans people didn't see themselves doing much out in the world, so to actually see something like this happen really opens your mind up to possibilities." But yeah, so she's a new benchmark. She's now the most successful woman to ever be on Jeopardy, and is just a gem of a person.
That's awesome.
Yeah, her 32-day streak was $1.1 million as of last Thursday.
She's still rolling? She's still on it?
Still rolling, I think. Yeah.
Good for her.
Yeah. Anyway, that's the news.
Whew, man, there's a lot of things in there that are like, feels like the same, like, hey, people, priests still suck.
Yeah.
Hey, Josephine Rose, love you. Like,
Priests still suck without consent.
Oh no, still suck, little boys. Like, you know, like people are still have homophobic and transphobic views, and
Yeah.
Speaking of people who suck, no, that's mean. I have no new Patreon members to read, so if you've been waiting, so like you're the only name, so you get like kind of all the spotlight.
Now's your time.
Well, now would be the time, but then I just said that, so maybe we'll get, I don't know. Sign up for Patreon. If you sign up at the entry level, you get is $2 a month. You get episodes a day early, ad-free listening, and Mike personally shows up at your house and gives you a big hug.
Yeah.
That's my euphemism for anal.
Okay, sure. Yeah. Well, also, if nobody new signs up and we have no names next week, I think that we should just start over and reread all of the names, but say them correctly and not be funny at all. Just like, just like the 9/11 memorial, read all of the names.
Wow. Oh, I was going to say we should delete our Patreon if no one signs up tomorrow. But I mean, by next week, we'll see. You stay tuned. See what happens on this developing Patreon story. If you want to join, go to patreon.com/Gayish podcast. It's fun.
Yeah, do it.
Sides.
Let's talk about sides. I think probably buttered corn.
But you gotta like have a little bit of something on there, like some
salt and pepper.
Just salt and pepper.
Yeah. Yeah.
When I was growing up, I like had the box mashed potatoes. So now those are my favorite. Like having mashed potatoes that have like lumps in them because they're from real potatoes is like, wait, you're supposed to be smooth and creamy white.
Yeah. I am. Thank you. No. Instant mashed potatoes are legit like a weird comfort food. This is not what we're talking about. We're not talking about sides.
We're in it. We got too far in it and actually cared about corn. Sides. What's a side, Mike?
Sides are neither tops nor bottoms. They're sides. They're people who don't want anal. They like all the other stuff, but not anal. No topping, no bottoming, but everything else.
Don't necessarily like all the other stuff.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
But yeah, side is a term that helps describe gay men. Yeah, that don't like anal, don't prefer anal, maybe don't even do anal. Doesn't mean they've never done it, but there are like a lot of interesting things that we can talk about so we have Dr.
Wait.
G.
Oh, damn it.
What?
Nothing. I should have started earlier. I was going to do a bit.
Oh, okay. You can.
Hey, Kyle.
Hey, Mike.
I'm going to tell you about the history of sides.
Are you?
Yeah.
Okay.
The word was invented by the dude. His name is Dr. Joe Kort. He's going to be on the show.
And he will then elaborate.
Yes. That's the whole history.
Oh, wow.
Yep. He invented it.
Shortest history ever. He wrote about it. I think the first appearance was in a 2013 article on Huffington Post. And it's something. When did you first hear about sides? I think mine was like a couple years ago.
Yeah. I have this vague feeling that it was something to do with the show, that somebody said something or sent us an article or like identified as that in the email or something. I think it's the show. I don't think it's I don't think it's that common in the gay community. Like I've talked to a couple of people just in the last week preparing for this show who were like, "What is that?"
Yeah.
But yeah.
And then you'll send them this link.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's helpful. Sorry, you just had to hear about non-consensual sex, which I guess is just called rape. Yeah. So I think a lot of things I learn about I learned from Reddit because I follow so many like LGBT subreddits and groups, and including things I don't think I follow any kind of side related subreddit. But yeah, I think the topic is both interesting, one helpful to like one of those things that like all of a sudden you hear about and you're like, oh, that's a thing and that's okay to be.
Yeah.
Like that's I actually wrote an article and included that that was not the point of the article. And I don't know if I want to say his name, like was like, oh, the first time I heard about that is in that article. And like it described me. And I I was like very glad that I knew about that and included it. And like Dr. Joe Kort like created this to have a distinct way to talk about it.
Yeah.
And it, I think, informs a lot of our weird hangups about sex and sexuality and, you know, what it means to be gay. So yeah, I'm excited to have him on.
Yeah, me too. So yeah,
should we do that?
Yeah. So like we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to have Dr. Joe Kort with us, who is a sexologist and writes articles and has a YouTube channel and has a podcast.
He has a podcast. We should probably Smart Sex, Smart Love podcast. You podcast listener probably like listening to podcasts about gay shit. So he does that. Yep. But listen to this first and then listen to his show.
That's right. Yeah. So should we take a break?
Let's take a break. Non-anal.
Land my side.
This is the part where Mike and Kyle take a break.
So are we back?
We're back.
We're back. We are here with Dr. Joe Kort. He's the clinical director and founder of the Center for Relationship and Sexual Health in Royal Oak, Michigan, a board-certified clinical sexologist, author of 4 books, all-around amazing dude. Welcome to Gayish.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm really looking forward to talking to you guys.
Yeah, us too.
I mean, can we start with telling us what a sexologist is? Or is that going to ruin what I've already started picturing in my mind, and maybe you shouldn't tell me?
Well, I would love to tell you, because people think that it involves touch when I tell people that.
Okay.
And I can assure you that we only touch our clients with our words. We are not body workers, you know?
You are dashing Kyle's hopes and dreams. Okay.
Yeah, right. It's not
yes,
that.
I was correct. I shouldn't have had, tell us about being a sexologist then.
Yeah, usually it's just we are trained therapists. Usually we have our master's or more. And then we have additional training in sex therapy, which most mental health therapists don't have. So when you go through school and you go through all your training, you just get mental health. Sex therapy and sexology has historically been pretty much locked out of mental health. So this is the training that we get. You can also be a sex educator, where you're out there teaching and training about in educational settings.
Mike, should we have gotten degrees before we did this?
I think we just get like honorary ones after we've done the show long enough. So
okay, yeah. Once we hit our 5-beer mark, we'll find some college nearby.
So when you think about like anything clinical at all, I think of governments and I think of politics, and then that makes me wonder, when licensing and sex are in the same sentence, do people freak out? Like, is there even you need to be licensed, I would assume, but is the regulatory environment really weird?
No, well, we're not licensed. You can't be licensed as a sex therapist anywhere other than Florida. You can be licensed, and they have their own regulatory bodies. I wish we had it all over the country, but in Detroit, Michigan, where I live in Michigan, we don't. So it's really just like a certification that I have.
Okay. Okay.
My PhD is in clinical sexology too. So it's people often think it's a psychology. It's not. I'm a social worker first, and then I'm a sexologist.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
Well, Mike, I was going to move on to sides unless you had more.
Do it. Let's talk about sides.
And yeah, we wanted to have you on to talk about the word sides, which, best I can tell, you came up with in a 2013 Huffington Post article. Is that correct?
Yes. It is, yes.
Okay. So we've talked a little bit about what our definition of sides. I'm curious is like both for you to define it in your words, but then also, is there anything that it's grown or changed into after? Like sometimes you put something out there and then it no longer belongs to you, or you don't own the evolution of it. And so I'm curious just to hear your definition to see if it's changed at all since I've read about it.
Well, first of all, that's such a smart thing to say, because that's exactly happened. And
Thank
at first
you,
I was like, it's exactly what happened. And at first I didn't like it. I'm like, wait a minute. I came up with this and I liked my definition, but then I thought, well, that's not right. Like, we're all about expanding. My whole work is about expanding gender identity, sexual identity. So I've really leaned into it. So it started because myself am a side, but I didn't call it that. I was very ashamed for all of my gay life, I guess, because I don't like intercourse. I don't want to penetrate. I don't want to be penetrated. I'm not afraid of it. I'm not disgusted by it. It just is not erotic to me at all. And so when guys would talk about fucking each other and getting 2 loads, I'm like, what do you mean 2 loads of laundry? I don't know what you have inside your butt. I don't know what's going on, you know. I didn't really, I mean, I understood what they were saying, but I would say, well, I would talk about what I did and people would be like, well, that's not sex. And I'm like, for me, it is sex, actually. So one day I was doing these workshops for gay men, and I just came out as a side during it because we were doing sexual fantasies and sexuality. And anyways, I thought, why? I didn't call it a side, though. I was laughing with some of them and saying, well, if you can be a top or a bottom, why can't you be a side? And everybody laughed, and I thought, why can't that be the word? And so then I used it to come out and get rid of my shame. And we have a Facebook group, a private Facebook group called Side Guys, that we have about 4,500 men in there now that are all over the world that are so happy to identify as one.
I just realized right this second I've never questioned this before. Does side imply gay? Are there straight sides in the world?
See, that's a good question. And we've talked about that in the room. Yes, I would say there are straight men and women or straight people that just don't want to have either PIV, penis and vagina, or PIA, penis and anus. So sure, I think there are people that could call themselves side. I just brought it to the gay male community because we're so centered and so focused on topping and bottoming all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, that seems like an example of something you might not have thought of before. How did that word, you mentioned there were some weird parts about the word that you didn't know were going to change or evolve. What parts were the weird parts you had to embrace?
Well, not weird, but like, for instance, I'm like I would call myself a gold star side, right? I've never done it at all. Never tried it. Where guys are coming into the group, they're like, well, no, sometimes I have tried it, and I don't mind it, but it's not my go-to and it's not what I want. So then we talk about power sides. We talked about, right? You can be a versatile side where you sometimes have intercourse but mostly not. Or, you know, like, so there's like those kinds of words that we're coming up with in the room. And I have grown into them.
The challenge that I see, I really enjoy that word. One of the challenges that I would imagine is that people already bring a lot of baggage to anal, whether that's anything in the butt makes you gay, or like growing up feel like being discussed, like that's where the poop comes out, you know, common things that we hear that then might prevent gay men from anal. How do you there's a struggle there that I see that I don't know what to do with.
So do you mean like, so if you get comfortable with this word, then you might think, well, now I don't have to deal with anal intercourse, even if it might be something I like. Is that what you mean?
I think so. I think you can mistake negative feelings as, oh, well, I'm a side, when really you were trained by society never to, like, that doing anything with your butt means you're gay, and that means it's bad.
I think that's I never thought of that. I have thought of that with asexuality. When clients come to my office and say they're asexual, I always want to rule out, is it a trauma response, right? Is it that you just have a low drive? Is it medication driven, right? So there could be, like, you need to rule out all that to make sure you really are asexual. And the same would be true for this. So that makes sense. I don't know how, so I guess the only way to know is for somebody to be coached into making sure it's not what you just said. Other things.
Yeah. It's one of those things that's like, it's not bad if it's either option, but you wouldn't want to mistake, a societal kind of shame of bottoming for being a side if that's not the real issue going on. But
right, or even topping. Right, I agree.
Yeah.
Most of the guys in my Facebook group, though, I will tell you, have tried it. And so they've given it their all, and it's not for them. And then they felt ashamed. And then sadly, a lot of them find it hard to find partners because of it, because it's so driven for intercourse in our culture, even in the straight culture, right? Everybody, if you say, hey, I just worked with a couple tonight, and the woman said to her husband, it's so disappointing. He's in his 60s and he's not always able to have an erection, and she doesn't think that anything but PIV sex is sex. So it's so hard.
Wow.
You did mention asexuality. That was actually something I was, aside from what we were just talking about, Is there any relation for being a side and asexuality, or are they two completely different concepts?
They're different, but they're related. So people think, this is so interesting, people think if you're a side, you're asexual because they think that sex is only intercourse, right? So if you remember, wait a minute, we have outer course, we have lots of ways of being sexual in addition to intercourse. Then people understand, well, no, I'm very sexual. I love sex. I just don't like intercourse. But you can be an asexual and a side.
Sure. Yeah.
Right? Because asexuals can enjoy a relationship and can have sex from time to time even, because they have a whole continuum, but they may not like intercourse. And some do. There are some asexuals that like topping and bottoming.
Yeah, those also seem like side. There's someone who is asexual, someone who has a trauma response to like bottoming or gay sex at all. Like those all seem like topics that could either be mistaken or hover in the same area that need some parsing out and are very important to understand their distinctions.
I love this. I think that makes a lot of sense. Yes.
I am curious. We've talked on the show before about oral tops and oral bottoms, but the concept of side is we're strictly speaking about anal sex, right? Or am I missing the boat?
Yeah, it's just anal sex, right? Some of the guys in the group like fisting. They like to get fisted and do fisting. They like rimming. They like, inserting fingers in toys. They just don't want intercourse.
Whoa. Hold on. Okay. Totally down. I just like there could be a guy who is a side and likes to be fisted.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So it's strictly the penis part about something being in their ass that is
for some men.
For some, yes,
some men.
Yes.
I would say that most of them are like me. They just don't want it at all. That no interest. And then there are others that like oral or anal play.
Huh. Wow, that blew my mind. You two can continue on about the conversation while I just take all of this is like I'm excited. One of the great things to have you on is hearing about this and all of it like may take a second to just like change my I love stuff in my butt, so it's like I'm learning about a group that I don't necessarily understand or can't directly understand, so all of it is like it very interesting. And then I just take a second to like, okay, let me refigure my brain to, okay, now I can, that one might take a couple seconds though. So,
well, while Kyle's thinking about his butt, I want to ask about, you mentioned like difficulty in relationships or finding relationships. And I'm wondering if you could say more about that, because I think dating in the gay world is rough as it is without sort of special circumstances. Can you say more about like what you and other sides are finding when it comes to dating?
Yeah, no, I didn't. When I was in my 20s, so I've been with my husband almost 30 years. I was 30 when I met him, and all of my 20s when I dated guys, and I just would say to them, I don't do this. So if this is what you want to do and this is important to you, you need to move on. And I remember some really good guys that I would have loved. Even today, I still see them around. They would have made great partners and great husbands, but not for me because they were invested in intercourse. So, but I wasn't struggling like the guys are in our group. And the clients that come and see me who are struggling, they are, well, it's all, sometimes even in your generation, right? I mean, it breaks my heart that in your generation, I think you guys look like you're half my age. I don't know how old you are, but I'm 59 years old, right? So I thought by now the gay community would be just better, and it just seems as bad in some ways as it was in my generation, lonely and negative and mean and disenfranchised. And so these men are already feeling this way. And then you go out there and there's no on Scruff, on Grindr, on Adam, for Adam, all these things, none of them say side. So you can't really click that as a button. So they just feel lonely and disappointed and get passed by all these guys all the time. And they're constantly lamenting about it.
Absolutely. Thank you. I'm definitely half your age. And I stand by that forever. No, I'm 35. And so I feel like there still is you come out and then you enter the LGBTQ space and there's a whole new level of judgment. The ideal would be, okay, now I'm in this community that it's all accepting and loving and, and there's a lot of that. So I don't want to like dismiss the good parts, but there is some like now you're in here and you get some of the judgment and criticism and I'm better than you, or I don't know, taking the power that you now have within this community to look down on other people. I absolutely believe that and feel that still happens.
In the kink and the fetish world, right? Intercourse doesn't happen for the most part. It's not about intercourse. In fact, sometimes you're not even exposing genitals. You're not even reaching orgasm. So in kink and fetish, those communities understand sides because there's not intercourse happening in there.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Yeah. So I'm 43, by the way, and so
wow, you do not look like you're 43.
Thank you. But I entered my gay life later. I was 30 when I came out, and my experience though has been that gay men are just fucking each other left and right, and that's the only thing that matters, and that's the only part of identity. And the fact that I'm just not that. We talk about it on the show all the time. I don't identify as a side per se, but like anonymous is not my thing. Like just like meet up and bang it out in a public look. Like it's just not me. And I've struggled with my gay identity, feeling like I'm doing it wrong or that I don't necessarily belong because I'm not the sex crazed gay guy that I see in media, especially, but then also in the community. Do you have any advice for somebody who's feeling like that, who's struggling with their validity as a gay person because they are aside or on the ace spectrum?
I think it's important to find your community. So like you might be considered a demi-gay, right? Demisexual, who's only...
Well, Kyle tried to convince me I was demi many, many years ago, and
but I was talking about more, and
I love that. I love that joke.
Drag persona, and it didn't work then either. But you're a doctor. Please take a swing at this.
I mean, demi just means that you're only going to want to be sexual with somebody that you have an emotional connection with, right? Not anonymous.
Yep.
But how come you don't like the word?
I think.
Who do I know that there's someone I know that reminds me of.
This is great. Okay, buckle up, Gayish listeners. We're now doing Mike's therapy session here with Dr. Kort. This is. I was really just looking for cheap therapy today, so thank you for being on.
You're welcome.
My whole thing about demisexual, it was my understanding that it was necessary to have a connection to feel sexual desire. And that is certainly not me. Like in a public place, like at the bar hanging out, I'll be like, oh, that guy's hot, that guy's hot, that guy's hot. And I definitely have the desire to. For me, it's that if I don't have some sort of relationship, trust, connection built up with a person before we end up in the sack, I will have a trauma response. And I don't like it, and then I get up in my head, and then I lose my erection, and then I'm like just trying to figure out how to navigate this and get out of the encounter as quickly as possible because it has stopped being fun. And so my understanding of the word demi, though, was just like you don't even have the desire to hook up with and get in bed with this person until that relationship has been built. So it didn't feel like a super good fit, but it's close. It's
close. I can see. Yeah.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. Because you're saying that when you're in the bar, you can see hot guys and you can imagine being sexual with them.
Damn right I can, yeah.
Okay, all right. I think you're on the demi continuum. Maybe there's a word you would create, that's something that you might say. You're like a relational gay. That's what you are.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I like that. Where were we? Oh, I got flustered. I'm warm now. Okay.
I promise not to bill you for this, by the way. I want to say one more thing about demisexual that you might find interesting. I did a podcast of my own with this guy, and I can't remember his name, but he has a TikTok account. It's all about asexuality, and he does a lot of demisexual stuff. So maybe you could start to watch him a little bit and see if he expands the definition, because like just happened here with Kyle, he expanded the definition a little bit more about being aside. Maybe there is an expanded, and maybe that would be. I don't know if you need that community though, but some people do.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to figure it out, and having support in that might be really good for me.
Sorry, was that an episode of your podcast on Smart Sex, Smart Love with Dr. Joe Kort?
It is, and I had him on this year. This year I had him on, yes. Okay.
So you just have to listen to all the episodes to find it.
You can
download each and every one.
But I'll tell you something. Where do you live?
Seattle. We're both in Seattle.
Oh, in Seattle, sorry. Because in Michigan, you would be a perfect fit in Michigan because people here are very relational, very. And monogamy is like the gold standard here in Michigan, in the Midwest, I should say.
That's interesting. Like geographic. I mean, everybody says that Seattle and Portland are like the poly capitals of the world, and that everybody out here is open and hesitant to put labels on it, and I don't know. And Seattle's a city of bottoms. Apparently, that's something everybody says. But that's interesting. Maybe I should move to the Midwest. Kyle, the show is over. I'm moving to the Midwest now.
Are you starting your own spin-off show called like a Demi in Michigan or something?
Yeah, maybe so.
I wanted to ask about open relationships, as that seems, at least in my both vernacular and the people I know, that is a growing phenomenon. And even on apps, I'm seeing more and more people put that they're in open relationships. That feels like a potential solution if you're a side and trying to make a relationship work that doesn't. But I'm curious what the either challenges are, or if you talk about open relationships as an option.
Oh, totally. Yeah, no. So for a lot of people, I mean, really, it's an option when you get two bottoms together or two tops together, right? And everybody, when they're in romantic love, think, oh, I can make this work. Oh, I can't believe all of a sudden I can have intercourse. I can be a bottom. I can be a top. But we all go to our natural state after the romantic love ends. And so at that point, I usually do talk to people about, well, I mean, starting with toys and starting with being creative in your monogamous relationship. But if it is important to you to that your nature really is to be a side or to and to not engage, then yes, opening your relationship is a great way. And so many gay men do have open relationships and make it work very well, in my opinion. I don't know if you know this, but the research is that 50% of gay male couples are in open relationships.
Wow.
And a lot of single guys get upset with that because they're like, how am I ever going to find somebody? And I always think that's internalized homophobia, because why are you looking at the 50% that are open? You have 50% that are monogamous. That's a good sign for you. Go over there and start looking around,
Yeah. Although a little bit of a I don't know.
Rebuttal?
I have a response to a rebuttal. Thank you, Kyle. Putting the butt in rebuttal. I might not necessarily be looking for monogamy, and so finding somebody who's single and willing to be open feels like it's sort of a difficult camp to find.
I have always found that single gay guys are way, way, way more judgmental about open relationships than guys in long-term relationships. The guys in long-term relationships get it, and the single ones, they got a heteronormative mind about the whole thing, in my opinion. Monoganormative. Let me say that.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting.
I just want to have a three-way, so open relationship, I'm like, neat. Let's explore this. So, I didn't think about this until you just said this, like this, bringing heteronormativity into the LGBT community. Like sides feel like a product of that, like that you have to be insertive. I mean, there are a lot of different ways. Like there have to be insertive sex, the one that's tops the man. Like there's a lot of things we bring in. Is this a product of heteronormativity, or is there more going on?
I think intercourse is the emphasis on that in the gay male community is the product of heteronormativity. That being a side is breaking away from that and saying, no, we're not going to do this, and it's normal for us not to want to do this. There's nothing wrong with us, like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's the focus on intercourse in the gay male community being a product of heteronormativity is interesting, because I think a lot of straight people, especially shitty straight people, would be like, no, we don't think gay people should have sex at all. Where's that coming from then, if some straight people just flat out don't like gay people at all, don't think they should be having anything?
I know, that's a really good point. I don't know, but I do know that I blow people's minds, straight people, when I tell them about being a side, and they're shocked. Like sex therapists, even I have to teach sex therapists that not all gay men like anal sex. And I don't know if you know my famous quote, but I get a lot of straight guys that like to get fucked, and they're afraid to tell their spouses. Female spouses, or if they do, she has a disgust response. She's not into it. So he'll go and find men to do it, but he's not into the men. He's just into getting fucked. And so then he comes to me because his wife thinks he's gay, or he thinks he's gay. And, they're horrified by the whole thing. And I say to them, listen, your anus doesn't have a sexual orientation. It doesn't know whether it's gay, straight, or bi. It's an anus, and it knows it enjoys pleasure, and you have a P spot. And your P spot is enjoyable to people. So it's not about sexual orientation just because you like anal sex.
Yeah.
This is magical because, Joe, on my list of things is straight men who sleep with men, because I've heard you talk about that on YouTube, like quite recently. Actually, it's like it's sort of I think last week you had something about that on your show. So help me out. Like, my flippant response to hearing that is like, well, he's not that straight then, right? But
I like it. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just fascinated by the idea that there are straight guys who legit are out there and having sex with dudes, and not only are having a crisis of identity, but are then still making it through and not labeling themselves as somewhat bisexual or gay.
Right.
How common is this? Do you have any sort of sense for that?
We don't, because they don't have permission to talk about it, because once they do, everybody thinks they're gay. And this is what made me famous on TikTok. I have 550,000 followers as of this week.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because my videos on straight men who have sex with men, I have one that's blowing up right now today. I did it last night and it's almost at 100,000 views. And people are just fighting in the comment section and hating on me and can't wrap their mind around it. So here's what I say. When a man has one non-heterosexual thought, he's stigmatized. When a woman has one non-heterosexual thought, she's fetishized. We have and both are problematic, but we have no problem with women having sex with women. In fact, we have a word for women that do it in college. They're called lugs, lesbian until graduation.
Yeah.
And everybody laughs and, oh, that's so cool and whatever. And then she goes to her heterosexual life. But if a straight guy says, yeah, I sucked dick all through college, it was so much fun, but I'm straight now, and people laugh. Like, he can't have done that, as if this is what makes me so upset about the younger LGBT generation, is that everybody can have a fluidity, but not straight guys. You know, a gay man can have sex with a woman, a lesbian can have sex with a man, a straight woman can have sex with a woman and still be lesbian, gay, but if a straight guy does it, the act defines who you are. And my generation was all about stopping that. I always say to people, if I'm never sexual another day in my gay life, I'm still gay. If I have sex with a woman tomorrow and I have repeated sex with her, that doesn't make me bi. What I try to tell people is straight men are not attracted to men. That's what makes them different from bisexuals. Bisexual men are attracted to men. Straight men are attracted to maybe this man in this time, in this place, but not all men. He's attracted to the sex act. It's the act that's turning him on, not the man. So it's more like that.
That's so fascinating to me. Yeah.
I enjoy the respective things that blew our minds. Mike's is about straight dudes having sex, and mine is about fisting. I think there's something that speaks to our personalities that I don't know that I need to explore more. In the Huffington Post article where you talk about sides, you talked about other causes that people may not like anal that I was a little bit surprised about, hadn't thought about, and then completely made sense. One of them is prostate surgery that I just didn't really think about. What are the other reasons, other than just pure lack of desire, internal desire? What are the reasons that someone may be aside?
They might have hemorrhoids, and it hurts, and it keeps hurting, reharming and breaking through the hemorrhoids. It might be that they have ED, erectile it's erectile disorder, but we call it erectile disappointment in sex therapy, rather than making some big deal about what's going.
Yeah.
And as you age, your erections change, and fitting into a vagina is a little easier than fitting into an anus. Honestly, so some people just move toward, or have some kind of medical illness or some kind of issue. And I hear what you're saying too about, like, could it be religious? Could it be that people think it's dirty? It could be those things too. And I guess sometimes I think, well, so what? Let's say that's the case. And so that's the reason that they're aside. For them, it might work. But for other people, they might need to be challenged, just like you said.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Well, then I was absolutely unwilling side when I had butt issues, and I had to have what I call a butt enlargement surgery because of a recurring fissure. So yeah.
Oh, right.
For that period of time, nothing was going in.
Mm-hmm. But that's great that you had that worked. That you had it fixed.
Yeah. And then And now I'm the perfect bottom.
So I'm curious, sort of backing up a little bit, how do sides find each other? Is it just through the apps, but the apps don't have a label that works necessarily effectively? So are you learning about like most effective ways for sides to find each other in the world?
Well, sometimes they'll put it on their profile, no anal or fraud. Fraud is a big thing about just, rubbing up against each other. In fact, some people, I was looking at our website, we have different names for different kinds of sides, and one of them is a fraud side. Somebody who likes to engage in fraudage, right? Just penis to penis contact. Some people take my Huffington Post article, and there's a section of it that says, here's what a side is. They snap a picture of it, and it's one of their photos, so that someone can see it. But people get to cut to the chase in the very beginning of, you're going back and forth. What are you into? Are you a top or a bottom? I'm not into anything. And then they have to go through this whole thing. Well, then you're not into sex? What does that mean? So it can be frustrating because there's a whole conversation, but those are some of the shortcuts.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Makes sense. Yeah.
This is very helpful, very informative, and a lot that I think people can learn about, even if they're not a side, to understand. I guess, is there any advice you would have for someone who is a side and just now exploring that side of them, or maybe even by listening to this, understanding that that's an option available? What kind of advice would you have for them?
Well, I'd like to start with what you said, Kyle. I love it, really. As a therapist, I don't know why I never thought of this, but to really make sure you're not a side because of trauma, because of, religious beliefs, cultural beliefs, whatever. I think they should do that. But secondly, I feel like my work is de-shaming people all the time as a sex therapist, getting rid of and helping people remove their shame. But the third thing, and probably a really important thing, is don't listen to other people's negativity. Do you know what people say to us? They say, you haven't met the right guy. Yeah, we said that to lesbians. That worked really well for lesbians. You just need a good fuck, and then you're going to be okay. I can't tell you how many times people say that to sides, or something's wrong with you, or you don't like sex. Don't listen to any of those messages, because it's not true. You're just not into it. It's just not. Just like a top isn't, some tops aren't into bottoming. There's nothing wrong with you. You're just a top,
Yeah, I love that.
Okay. Well, I think we did it, Kyle.
Yeah.
Thanks to Joe, we got some therapy.
You did. I'm perfect already, so I don't think I needed any.
Well, okay.
Mike, do you want to take a break?
Yeah, sure. Let's take a break.
This is the part where Mike and Kyle take a break.
So are we back?
We're back.
We're back. Dr. Joe Kort, where can people find out more about you, what you're up to, how to get in touch with you, etc.? Tell us all the things.
I'm pretty much everywhere on the internet, but basically you can go to my website, JoeKort, JoeKort.com. You can find me on LinkedIn, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and my handle is at Dr. Joe Kort.
Cool. And awesome. I will also then say Smart Sex, Smart Love, this is the podcast that he does. Unlike us, he seems to have a degree in talking about these things. So that's something I've looked forward to. And one of the things available on your website is the 10 smart things gay men can do to improve their 10 smart things gay men can do to improve their sex lives or their lives?
No. Ooh, but I don't really like the title anymore. I loved it in the 90s when I made that or wrote that book. But 10 smart things gay men can do to improve their lives.
I don't know why I just in my mind was like, wait, did I miss the words? No, you're talking about their lives. So that seems like it would be appealing to our folks that listen. What about us, Mike?
Yeah, well, our website is gayishpodcast.com.
We are on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter at Gayish Podcast.
Our hotline, you can send us text messages or leave us voicemails. It's 5855-GAYISH. That's 585-542-9474. Standard rates apply.
Our email is gayishpodcast@gmail.com.
And our physical mailing address is Post Office Box 19882, Seattle, Washington, 98109. A couple of quick notes. So Minecraft, they are meeting on our Discord server in voice chat every Thursday night at 6:30 p.m. Pacific. There were quite a few people in there last week. I didn't have a chance to stop by, but I looked on my app and I was like, holy fuck, there's a shitload of people in there hanging out. So if you want to join a cool Minecraft server and have fun on Thursday nights, you are more than welcome. Also, I'm so super stoked. I can't believe it's actually happening. So we are going to do a brief, little tiny miniature Northwest tour coming up. So I'm super pleased to announce that we will be at the Treefort Music Fest in Boise, Idaho. We're hoping for March 27th, which is the Sunday, but it could be anytime that weekend. We haven't gotten our slot yet. So it'll be March 25th, 26th, 27th, one of those 3 days. I will get more details as soon as we have them, but we're signed for that, which I'm super stoked about. The very next weekend is our 5th birthday, and we will be doing that at the Hop Capital Brewing in Portland, Oregon. So come join us there and ring in our 5th birthday as a show. It's going to be super awesome. I can't wait. It's going to be great. And then the next weekend after that, making a 3-city tour, we're going to end right here in our backyard in Seattle, Washington on Sunday, April 10th. This is not our North American tour that we've been talking about doing, that Patreon has a goal to get us to. We're going to try to do that later in the year, but we're going to do these 3 cities and we're going to learn some stuff. And hopefully that puts us in a place that we can be even more successful when it comes to later in the year for our actual North American tour.
Yeah, so we'll have more details on a couple of the locations and everything, but just wanted to give you all a heads up. So if you're nearby, you can write it down your calendar. And if you're not, you can make plans to hitch a ride over to see us.
Yeah, please do. It'd be great. And I'm sure as we get closer, we'll be even more loud about it.
Yeah.
Ready for a Gayest or Straightest?
Yeah, let's do it.
Kyle, do you want to go first?
Yes. Okay, I have a twofer. My gayest thing is that we went on our little retreat last weekend, and then we had some leftover alcohol, and one of my friends was like, I have some White Claw. Do you want the White Claw? So being the one, one that's like, oh, you probably want some White Claw, right? That's my gayest. My straightest is that I drank it, and it was Surge White Claw.
I didn't know that was a thing.
I didn't know that was a combination the world needs. It's not a combination the world needs after having drank one. It's not what we need, but drinking anything Surge related, I didn't know I was allowed to do that.
Well, there goes our White Claw sponsorship, Kyle. Thanks for fucking that up.
I like the good flavors they make. Just need to know what they're doing. Okay, Mike.
So the straightest thing about me this week was I was making coffee a couple of mornings ago, and I don't know why this feels straight, guy, but like I just didn't empty the grounds. I just put more coffee grounds on top of the old coffee grounds and then ran water through it, and just maybe it's being lazy about something. Anyway, that felt kind of straight guy to me. And then the gayest thing about me this week, Ronnie Spector died, and the song "Be My Baby" is Ronnie Spector and the Ronettes, and I just got sad, and I listened to that song on repeat. I've heard it like 400 times in the last few days. R.I.P. Ronnie Spector. Yeah, that's the gayest thing about me this week. Mourning by listening to a pop song over and over again. Joe, how about you? What's your gayest and straightest?
So my straightest thing would be that I went to a Pistons game, which is a horror movie to me, but I did it for my nephew and I wanted to hang out with him, so I went.
Okay.
So that was fun. Did
we win? Did the good team win?
That's basketball,
I have no idea.
Right?
I don't think we did.
Okay.
It's basketball. I don't think I knew I don't know. I just know that we're chasing an orange ball all around.
Great.
And then the gayest thing I did is I did a TikTok video, and I was talking about how my mother wouldn't let me impersonate Cher when I was a little boy. So I put some tights on my head, and I impersonated Cher in one of my TikToks.
That's awesome.
How would you rate your own performance? Do you think you
sucked big time? It was horrible. I look ugly. It was horrible.
That's hilarious. Haven't we all impersonated Cher at one point in our lives?
And a callback moment, Cher is one of the backup singers on "Be My Baby" because they didn't have the Ronettes in the studio.
I didn't know that. That's pretty gay that you know
that. Yeah, right. Thank you.
You're gayest, knowing that information.
Well, that is it. This has been Gayish. Dr. Joe Kort, thank you so much for being on. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. It was fun with you guys.
I would also like to thank the equally important Super Gap Bridgers who gave us money: Josh Copeland, Forrest Nell, Patrick Martin, Anonymous, James Barrow, Explosive Lasagna, Christopher Farrell, Jamie Pugh, Kevin Henderson, Tipson McStumbles, Donald Linsky, Thomas B, Dusty Sands, A. Coleman, Chris Cacciatorian, Jerome York, and Cian and Javi. Thank you for making us happy with your money.
Thanks for your cash.
Yeah.
This has been Gayish from the Chris Cacciatorian Studios. I'm Mike Johnson.
I'm Kyle Getz. Until next week, be butch, be fabulous, be you. See you next week.
See you next week.
On the side.
I just got the straightest because I went to a Pistons game, so I can do that.
Great.
That's
Yes. Perfect.
But I can't think of the gayest thing.
That sometimes that's hard because you're like, wait, I just acted normally, but what about that as a stereotype?